Like this?
We are live now. Yes. Yes, we are live now.
Okay, just give me 2 minutes. This mic?
And do we have this already? Yes. And this mic here.
Okay. Just give me 1 second. Just 1 second. I was just looking for your introduction. And I'll just use these.
Yeah.
Okay. Start with क्या?
पूछने ने क्या बोला था पता नहीं क्या बोलना है अभी ओपनिंग वाले के लिए
मतलब मैंने ये प्रिपेयर तो किया है कुछ.
ठीक है सर ये जो भी है मतलब बोल देना नाम वगैरह बोल देना बता देना
हाँ.
थोड़ा सा बस ठीक है
यहाँ से खड़े होकर बता दो.
हाँ कैमरा में देख लो
कैमरा इज the camera is this one. Where?
Or there.
Okay. So I'll look into the camera.
Yes.
Hello. So hi, good morning everyone. I hope you are all having a great day. My name is Divine. I'll be your host for the upcoming sessions. Thank you all for joining us in this session, which I'm sure will prove to be very insightful. So with great pleasure, I introduce our speakers for this session, Mr. Till and Mr. Avik Basu. Please join us in welcoming them with a huge round of applause. Mr. Avik Basu is an admin in the Linux Foundation, and he's involved in GSOC projects and a program manager in Open Printing, Zephyr Ambassador. And Mr. Till is a leader in Open Printing and is a Linux Foundation fellow. So please welcome them with a huge round of applause.
Okay. So.
Hello everyone, good morning.
Yes. How doing?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes.
I hope you everyone.
Hello everyone. Good morning. This is now the second opportunity open source after our successful event in the IIT Mandi last year. We decided to do it again, and this time the people from the IIT Kanpur offered us to host, and they have done really great work, much more than our expectations, and organized very nicely here the event on location, like finding sponsors, doing the nice posters outside with the photos of all the speakers, and organizing booths for the sponsors and so on, and also giving us these nice lecture halls so that we can give the talks. And also they have helped to contact speakers, potential speakers, so that we get so that we got a nice program for the 2 days. And we wanted only to do one plenary room and one workshop room, and they found so many speakers that we had to add a breakout room. So we have 3 rooms in parallel. And we also are doing a live streaming, so one can attend remotely. And also we have some speakers who speak remotely. So we get more speakers who are not able to travel to make the program even more diverse, more interesting. And on Monday, we will even have some hackathons. And so we have 3 days we have a 3-day event with a lot of nice things. And it is I'm leading open printing, and so open printing will be one of the topics of this event. But it's not only open printing. We have also Zephyr. We have Google Summer of Code. We have work at Canonical. We have and we have many other things. And so
yeah, maybe
I will yes, Avi.
okay. Yeah, maybe is it all okay? Maybe I'll just try to give you a very brief background of this conference. So as still mentioned, like we are hosting this for the second year. So last year, I mean, as you know, like Till is doing, I mean, he's a lead for open printing, and I'm the community manager for open printing, and we both are the org admins for the Linux Foundation Google Summer of Code project. So whatever Google Summer of project, I mean, for Linux Foundation that you see, we are the org admins for the entire Linux Foundation umbrella for GSOC. So last year he was coming to India, and like for, I mean, probably for UbuCon he was coming, and then we said like we have
DevCon,
DevCon, right? So we have a couple of students in IIT Mandi. So why don't we do a kind of a meetup in IIT Mandi, because we have a lot of students who are contributing for open printing there. Even we have people from Kanpur as well, IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, and a couple of other institutes. So then we thought of doing a meetup, and there was an invite from the IIT Mandi folks, and we traveled to the Mandi campus. And then we thought like, why should we only speak about open printing? Maybe we can invite our fellow colleagues to see like if they would like to speak on their their organizations or stuff. Then coincidentally, I am also one of the ambassadors for Zephyr in India. So like we invited few people from Zephyr and few other Linux Foundation people who joined virtually, and it turned out to be a small conference in IIT Mandi. And after, I mean, it was a 2-day conference in IIT Mandi where like people from Linux Foundation also joined virtually. And then we thought like, okay, why don't we do it this time as well? And that's when the talk started. We are hosting a similar kind of conference, and then IIT Kanpur wanted to host it this year, and we said yes, let's go ahead and do this. But this has grown quite bigger than what we had expected. Thanks to all of you guys for organizing it and inviting us. And then we wanted to invite more people to conference, and hopefully bigger next year. Now, with the opening plenary, like we will just move it quickly to like some basic things, just to make everyone aware of certain stuff with regards to what is happening in the campus, what are the expectations, what are the do's and don'ts. So by now you already know us. We are the chairs for this particular conference. Organizing team: Pratham, Rahavar, Prakhar, Sanskar, Shreya, they are all around. You can identify them probably with their black and blue tags. Oh, okay. Sorry, it was a different slide.
It's almost same.
कहाँ पे?
मेल पे मेल में संस्कार को करें हम
कहाँ पे?
संस्कार का लैपटॉप है संस्कार का लैपटॉप
One second, there is a glitch in the slides. We are just putting up the slide again.
Let's do one thing. You can continue this. Let's continue this.
Okay, it's sounding right? Am I audible at the back? Okay, great. So you can identify all of them with the black and the blue lanyards. Organizing team: Aditya, Shivansh, Devgya, Abhishek, Kanika, and Shujal. They are the organizing team members. Here we have the finance team, Sarthak, Aryan, then head of design is Samhita, and then media and publicity it's Nitika and Pratham from head of events. These are the organizers who are helping in setting up this entire event. Thanks to all of them. Okay, partners. So Open Printing is one of the prime, Open Printing and Linux Foundation and Zephyr Canonical. So they have volunteered to partner this event. Hardware partners, thanks to Beagleboard and ST Electronics for sending quite a number of IoT boards. So you'll get to see during the workshops, you'll get to use that. If you need more details on these boards, get in touch with any of the coordinators or the organizers. If there is somebody from the electronics club, you can contact the organizers to play around with the IoT boards. All of them support Zephyr. You have Zephyr technical experts as well. So if you want, you can get in touch with them as well. These are the sponsors: 3i Hub, Premio, then Overlay, PNB, CDIS, and Qualcomm. Thanks to the sponsors for sponsoring this event. So there are basically three kind of, or rather two kind of talks that will be on. So it's going to be the normal talks, then the workshops. The workshops are primarily in the third room, but we'll be having some workshops in the other room as well. There will be a hackathon from the on Gen AI probably on Monday, and there is a networking dinner for the speakers on Sunday, that is tomorrow. So this is a room structure as of now. So there is a mix and match of rooms for day one. So in day one, so we primarily it's LH18, which is this one, then LH14 after the coffee break. So after the coffee break, we'll have a different room. Same for room number 2. So it's going to be LH16 in the morning, and after the coffee break, it's going to be LH13. And room number 3, which is primarily for the workshops, it's the LH15. And the day 2, it's simple, 18, 19, and 16. You can check around the rooms nearby. It's everywhere there'll be hoardings, and you can obviously get in touch with the coordinators. And the coffee break timings are like 5:30 to 5:45. The StreamYard links, by now all of you have these links. In case you are not having it, reach out to any of the organizers. They can help you out. This is live streamed in YouTube. And if there is any speaker who is speaking virtually, they can join the plenary room or the workshop room or the breakout room. I guess by now they have all the details. Rules: wear your ID card. You should always wear your ID card. Be respectful to the security guards and the core team members. This is a secured campus, so you might, at any point of time, you might be asked few questions by the security guards. So just honor be respectful for them. Any damage to the property or the equipment, or any equipment has to be on individual responsibility. Attendees are planned to, to reach out to the rooms or like check in the virtual rooms well ahead of time. You are requested to send your presentations to Pratham, or rather it's not or, and to the OSSC Gmail ID as well, so that it can we can do it from here. We can do the live streaming easily. And speakers are requested to reach the session venue at least 30 minutes prior, so that we do not have to search around for the speakers. So I've already covered this, and in case if you do not want yourself to be photographed or videographed, so please let the coordinators know, so that they can avoid taking pictures or like putting you in the view. They can avoid that. For any doubts, you can take a you can take a basically a image of this one. So you can reach out to Shreya, Kshitij, Shanskar, or Arihant. Networking dinner will be on the auditorium ground on 25th, that is tomorrow, from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. But I guess this is primarily for the speakers. And last but not the least, enjoy the event. Thank you. Sure, you can ask. You continue.
Now we will open the floor for any questions you might have about the conference or open source. So please raise your hand if you have any questions.
That's right. We need the password for this one.
I'll just check. Ma'am, if you're giving
Another one.
should I introduce that or
Yeah, yeah.
आपका
कौन सा?
should I introduce this?
Yeah, yeah. You introduce the second class. But where is the slide? Where is the slide?
Slides are here.
Yeah, slides are here also and
I'm
there also.
asking for the.
We need the. Okay.
Right,
You just tell them that we are hosting the next one. Please give us some time for it.
Yes, we will be moving on to the second session. You are silent.
तो इसका लॉगिन करना चाहिए. इसका लॉगिन चाहिए. इसका लॉगिन चाहिए. हाँ, ZX. वो मेरा स्लाइड यहाँ पर भेजा था मैंने प्रथम को. तो इसको फिर ये कहाँ पे है? मैंने PDF भेजा था उसको.
किसको भेजा था?
संस्कार को भेजा था.
On his email ID or
On his email ID.
Gmail or
No, this one.
this?
Right.
Okay, right?
Yeah, this one. You want to introduce the next talk?
You can do it.
Yeah.
1 second.
हो गया आ गया.
But ये net.
अच्छा रुको. इसका कनेक्शन जा रहा है बाहर.
ये hotspot.
Can we display the schedule? Currently, there will be two talks. One by Jongchi Yu, which will be in room 2, which is L16. So, who wishes to go there can go there as well. And Avik will give a talk on navigating open source landscape right now. We'll begin in a few minutes. Just an announcement. If you guys have any problem, please contact people wearing a black ID card, a blue ID card, or a green ID card. The strap, black, green, and blue. You can contact any of us and we'll help you.
So as was mentioned right now, we'll have another talk by Mr. Vikasu about navigating open source landscape and a beginner's guide to something.
Can you come in? ये स्लाइड को वहाँ पे भेजना है। हाँ, कौन सा आईडी?
आप इसमें देख लो एस प्रथम 21 इसी पे
I show the camera regarding the remaining time in the end, like 10 minutes. I'll show that. So,
अभी यहाँ से अपलोड करना है
प्रेजेंट करो, प्रेजेंट ये डाउनलोड किया?
हाँ
ठीक है, यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट करो।
हाँ, it's showing it.
No, it will not show in the screen yet. इसका चार्ज जा रहा है, इसका चार्ज जा रहा है, इसको चार्जर लगाओ।
अरे प्रथम से चार्ज
Can you be here and like help in navigating?
Yeah, okay. I would have to change the slide back.
Yeah, I'll tell you when you can change.
Present.
Charge.
That the one that
This will be live streamed here. Okay, we can start. Okay, thank you for bearing with us. Guys, just a disclaimer, there might be some technical glitches, so like please bear with everyone for that. Okay, now the first talk of this event, we are going to talk about how to start your open source journey. I'm sure like in these 2 days, like today and tomorrow, there are going to be too many talks on specific things where people can contribute for different organizations or different, can contribute to open printing and all. But I thought of like putting a basic slide of what open source is all about and how you can start your journey. I'm sure like I do see some, school students also, so it might be interesting for them. And it's like in general, we are going to say like what open source is all about and how you can start your open source journey. Okay. So what exactly is open source? So it's a kind of a source code which is available for everyone to use as per your need. It's free of cost. The most important thing is free of cost. You buy a software I mean, it can be anything. It can be your OS or it can be a specific software. You need to pay for it, right? And the source code is not available to you. If you want to see like how the per piece of the software is built or like what is it inside, you cannot see the source code because somebody has created it and they are selling it and you are buying it. That's how they are making the profit out of it, right? So you cannot get the source code for that. You just get the finished product, which is the source code. But in open source, you get everything. You get the source code, you get the final product. You can use the source code as per your need. Okay, so that's what it's unlike proprietary software where the source code is kept secret. So here there is no secrecy. Anyone can use that. It enables collaboration and transparency. Remember one thing, like the most important thing in open source is like collaboration. Without collaboration, there is no open source. And open source is not specific to a particular country, particular zone, particular region, particular office. That's why most of the open source, most of the people who are working on open source, they are spread out all across the globe, right? Say, for example, in open printing, I am based out of India, Till is based out of Vienna. There are multiple people who are based. I mean, then Mike Sweet is based out of Toronto. There are many people who are based, who are contributing for open printing, but from different regions. Same holds good for other open source organizations as well. So it's free redistribution. You have the access to the source code. Anyone can access it. You, me, he, she, they, them. Anyone can use the source code. There is no restriction. And it's all about community. So without community, there is no open source. And without open source, there is no community. So it's like entire thing in open source is based on the community. The more vibrant is the community, it helps us, spreading the word of open source or like creating a great software out of it. And derived works. Derived works means you can use the open source code. You can use it as per your need. Obviously, you have to follow the licensing and all that are associated, but you can derive from it. Okay, next slide, please. Small history of open source. So, many of you have used Unix or you have heard of Unix. So, it was developed in 1917 AT&T Bell Labs, and one of the first operating systems which was widely shared. Okay, and that actually laid the ground for open source. And then obviously we all cannot forget the contribution of Linus Torvalds, who made Linux so popular. And like whenever you talk to anyone who is like new to open source, you talk to them like, can you name open source software? First thing they will say is Linux. Okay, so Linus Torvalds has a lot of contribution for this open source. So then the GNU project with a goal which was created like a free Linux or Unix operating system. Then that is how the concept of free software was introduced. Evolution, the open source initiative OSI was formed in 1998, which was basically aimed to protect open source software by providing a clear definition of what qualifies as open source. There are certain protocols which needs to be followed. You cannot use an open source code and you can sell it to somebody. You cannot use that. So there has to be a governance in place. There has to be something in place. Otherwise, anyone can do whatever they want. That's not permissible. You download the, probably one piece of open source code. You change the UI and you sell it. You cannot do it that easily. Okay. Next slide, please. Is open source all about software? Because whenever this thing comes in mind, like we have this concept, open source is all about software. It's all about software code. It's all about C, C++, Java, whatever programming languages that comes to your mind. Is it all about only software? No. If you are thinking that open source is only about software, that is not the case. It's not only about software. You have open source projects starting from astronomy to camera hardware to anything that comes to your mind. You have an open source equivalent project for it. Okay. I'm sure, like what you can see, you can recognize this. Many of you have already used this. So we have open source hardware. right? I mean, you'll get, there are a couple of talks lined up for today and tomorrow where you'll get to see what open source hardware is and how people are using it. You can join the Zephyr workshops or the talks where you'll get to see how people are using the open source hardware. Now, one of the biggest example is Raspberry Pi, then Arduino Uno, and there are many other open source hardwares that are available which you can use. So what, I mean, again, open source is not about software. If you have that in mind, remove that from your mind that open source is all about software. No. Can anyone tell me what is the last logo? I mean, this first two, I'm sure like many of you already know about it, but what is the last one? Anyone from the audience, can you tell me like what is the last logo? Does anyone know about it? No? There is a small symbol on the left. A small mosquito is there. I give you the clue. You are like very close. It's an open source malaria project. Open source malaria. So you can go and search it out. So it's an interesting one. So there are people who are doing research. There are people who are thinking about how we can control malaria, and they are, whatever research they are doing or whatever things they have it in mind, they are putting it, like they are opening it up. So that's how an open source project is. So it's not about software. Mosquito has no relation to software, hardware, or anything, right? So you can have your own open source project on any particular thing in the world. The main idea is you collaborate, you work together, you put up something which can be used by others, and you also contribute in that same thing. So this is the open source malaria project. You can search it out in the internet. Yeah, sure. There are certain things that they are doing in that respect also. Like I can one another project that comes to my mind is C Bioportal. So they are doing a kind of research on how cancer medicines are working. They have a kind of a data set available. Say when you talk about cancer medicines, there is no standard protocol. Like say a particular chemotherapy works for person A, it might not work for a person B who is in some other region. So they are building a data set where like they are putting it in this way, in this particular geography, this is the chemotherapy which was applied to person X, and in another different region, the same chemotherapy was applied, how was the outcome? So they cannot predict like whether this chemotherapy will work for that person or not, but at least they can give us statistics in this particular region with this age bracket, if this medicine was given, this was the outcome. So that can give the doctors a rough overview. It can give an idea. So there are projects of this sort as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this one is easy. I'm sure like there will be some people in this this group who can answer this. Does anyone know what is this about?
Yeah, so in slums they using water bottles and putting up villages get like proper light inside the home during the day.
Correct, but what is that? What is it actually?
It's a water bottle.
It's a water bottle, agreed. They are putting it in places where there is no light, or like people who cannot afford electricity, where electricity has not reached. But what is it all about? What is it called? This is Litter of Light. This is another interesting project. It might seem to us that it is very, very simple. Okay, and I make it, I mean, wherever I have spoken about open source, in whichever institute or whichever place, I made sure that I put in this slide. So this was started, a very easy concept. People who cannot afford electricity, or there are small islands in many places across the globe where it's not possible technically to bring in electricity because it's in the middle of the island, and like it's very tough to bring in the electric poles and all. So what they have designed is like, it's a bottle, it's a normal Coca-Cola bottle, or like the kind of soft drinks bottle that we have. They are putting in water, and they are putting in few drops of bleach inside that bottle. So they are putting in few drops of bleach so that there is no algae formation and all. So as you can see on top, that's a roof. That's a roof or an asbestos roof in a particular place where they do not afford electricity, cannot afford electricity, and they have put in like 3/4 of the bottle. They have made a hole on the top. They have put in 3/4 of the bottle inside, and the top of the bottle is exposed to sunlight. So when the sunlight falls on the top part, and by the laws of diffraction and reflection of physics, the inner part of the bottle glows up, and that becomes your source of light. Just try it out at your home. You can easily do it. Take a box, cardboard box, and just put a normal Coca-Cola bottle, white color, and put it in the sunlight and see how it is glowing. And this is, interestingly, this is also an open source project. Go and search in internet like Liter of Light. So this was started by a few people from Philippines and then by a group in MIT. And this is quite interesting, and this is being used in many places across the world. In Philippines and India also, I saw there were a few places where they are using it, but this is interesting. So if you have anything of this sort in your mind, you can also create your own open source project. It does not need rocket science, it does not need any complexity. It can be on anything. There is no compulsion that it has to be on software. It can be on any particular thing. Okay. Next slide, please. What are the benefits of open source? I have already spoken on few of those things. So collaboration and community. Collaboration and community is one of the primary factors of open source, because without collaboration, without a community, you do not have the scope to build a very good open source software. It is not at all possible, right? I'll give you an example. It was in the year of 2015. I met Till Kampeter, my project lead for open printing in US, and we were speaking like when it comes, and that time I was working for printer drivers and scanner drivers. I was working in a printer company, and like then we met and we were discussing like in open printing or open source printing, we do not have too many contributors who are contributing for it. It's only primarily the stalwarts who are using. Today you will hear Mike Sweet, who has created cups. So it was primarily Mike working on open printing, and then or cups, and then Tim who was working on cups filters. Okay, and all that you see printing in through Ubuntu or any Linux distro that you use, or all that you see like printing through Mac, it's because of what we do. If open printing was not there, you could not have printed from Linux, you could not have printed from Mac. So earlier cups was being maintained by Apple, but now again this has come to open printing. So then I met Till, and he was telling me, okay, and we are not getting contributions, and I do see very less people from India as well. Then I said, okay, let me see what I can do. So that's how the journey started. So then I started approaching few groups in IIT Kanpur, then IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, then other few institutes, and that's how we got our first set of contributors from Kanpur. Since we are in Kanpur, I'm telling about Kanpur, I'm taking the name of Kanpur more. So that's, I remember Yash Srivastava, I remember Lakshya Bandish, I remember then Ritvik. So who were our earlier contributors. Then from IIT Monday, it was Sahil. Sahil has come today as well, he'll join the talks. So that's how we started, and they were our first set of GSOC students in 2016. And I'm happy to say, like till 2015, we hardly used to get 1 or 2 contributors for open printing in GSOC. But this year, can you imagine how many contributors we have received, or how many GSOC projects we are doing for open printing? It's 11. We got 19 slots for the Linux Foundation, out of which 11 are for open printing, because of the popularity it is going. Every year I'm getting probably close to 500 CVs or like interest from people who wants to work on open printing. And the most interesting part is, now for GSOC, that criteria is not at all there that you have to be a university student. You can contribute. If you are a working person, if you are a university student, whoever you are, you can contribute for open printing or any particular open source project. So it's all about the community. Without community, there is no open source project. Okay. Cost effective, as I said, it's free, so you can use any open source software. Like for example, this particular laptop is having Ubuntu. You can download Ubuntu, so you do not have to pay for it. You do not have to pay for any piece of open source software. Flexibility of usage, you can use it as per your need. Say, suppose I'll give you an example. You are using a particular piece of code, and then you feel like a particular support is not there. For example, if you are using an IIT code and you feel like, okay, Bluetooth support is not there, you changed it as per your need. You change that as per your need, you modify it, you add in the support for whatever you need, and you push the code so that others can also use it, right? So you are taking help from the master code, you are modifying it as per your need, and you are putting it and you are also inviting others to use that. So that is how it grows. Long term, it's like the primary project. Any open source project which is maintained in a proper way has a long term support. So, for example, Linux. It's not that people have built Linux and they have moved away from it, right? They are still using it. Supports are coming in. There are people who are contributing, and the community is growing. It's evolving. Linux, what it was at least 10 years back, it's not what it is now. It has evolved over the years, right? So it has long-term support. Few people have it in mind. Okay, if free means it's okay, and there will not be any support. There will not be we cannot use it. But any particular open source software which is maintained in a proper way definitely has a support. Next slide. Challenges. It's not that everything is rosy. It's not that everything is good. It's not that everything works well in the open source world. Everything has a problem associated to it. So open source is not an exception. Okay. Compatibility. There are many cases where things are not compatible. You try to use that, but it might not be as simple as that, right? That's when you build the compatibility. That's when you put on the support for it, right? That's, as I gave you an example. You download an IIT piece of code and you see like the Bluetooth support is not there. What will you use? Will you be able to use that code? It might not be of any use. But what you can do is you can work on that, and you can you can merge your code so that others can use it. So even though if it is not compatible, but if you can contribute to it, then nothing better than that. The next one is lack of documentation. This is another very critical thing for open source project. There are multiple projects, open source projects, which are born, but many of them die out because they do not have proper documentation. And without proper documentation, it is a pain to use a project. I mean, be it open source, be it proprietary, be it whatever it is. If you have, it's simple like you have brought a good piece of electronic code and you have not given a manual how to use it. It's a pain, right? Same is the case over here. So there are some brilliant contributors across the globe, but all open source projects do not have proper documentation. And without any proper documentation, it's a problem. So that is why Google came up with the concept of with another program, which is Google Season of Docs, where you can start contributing on the documentation of a project. Like you have Google Summer of Code, where you are contributing for the code, you can also contribute for the documentation of a particular project, and that's how many open source projects are getting a benefit out of it. Okay. Sustainability. As I said, like if a particular project doesn't have a vibrant community, if the community is not growing, if it is limited to few individuals, if it is, then it's very hard to sustain that particular project and support that particular project. There might be few people who created it, but after that they left it from there and they did not continue. And the piece of code lies abandoned. It's an orphan piece of code. Okay. So it might be like many things have evolved after that, but if people are not contributing to it on a regular basis, it's of no use. Now the next most interesting thing, how can you start contributing for open source? How do you start your journey, right? We spoke about so many things about benefits, challenges, what is open source all about, but how do you start? That's something which is interesting, correct? First, identify what is it that makes you feel interested. There are many things. There are there is a like open source malaria project. There is an open source camera hardware project. There is an open astronomy project. There is open printing. There is Python. There is X. There is Y. There is Z. Right? But how do you do it? So first you identify your area of interest. What is it that makes you feel interested? It might not be related to what your day job is. It might not be related to what your stream is. It might not be related to what you are studying. You can do whatever you want at whatever particular age. But what is it that makes you feel interested? First, identify that. Next thing is check out the basics, right? These are few of the basics, like how the open source software development works. So primarily, what is Git? What is a PR merge? How to do a build? So these are the basic things that you need to learn. Third most important thing. So once you have identified what is your area of interest, once you have identified your the organization for which you want to contribute, learn the basics. Once you have learned those basics, then join the community. So say suppose you are interested to work for open printing, you are interested to know contribute for open printing, join the open printing community. That's how you understand how to start from, where to start from, which are the issues that you, how you can build the code or what you can do, because it's a community that helps you out. Identify your good first issue. What is a good first issue? If you go to Git, there will be many issues tagged as good first issue, which is a very simple issue for any particular beginner to start with. It can be as simple as doing some cosmetic changes in the README file. There might be a spelling mistake as well. There is no shame in doing it, but at least go through it. You are learning the basics. Start from there. Start from a simple bug, or if you are not clear on what it is, talk to the community members, ask them, request them, hey, can you please suggest me which will be a very easy issue for me to work on. Gradually increase the complexity. Do not target the complex issues at first. It's okay if you want to first build your code and print out some stuff in the log statement. That's okay. Do that. Next one. Contributing to open source, understanding the contribution guidelines. Each particular project might be having their own set of guidelines, their own set of syntax, their own set of doing things. So check those out from the community members. Your first peer, it can be as simple as like what I already said. It can be as simple as doing a simple code change or maybe modifying something in the README file. That is okay. Communication. Once you are done, communicate. More you communicate in a particular community channel, you become popular. For example, if you are planning to contribute for GSOC, if you are planning to contribute for any other program, you should start at least 6-7 months prior to that. The more you start talking, more you show your presence in the community, people know you. Okay, this is person X who is new to this group, but I do see he or she is working on these many things. They are at least trying to learn. So by the time the program starts kicking off, the kickoff happens for that particular program, and you apply for that program, the community knows you. At least the senior folks know, okay, this person has been contributing. I've seen his name. So that's how you grow your popularity. So communicate, and do not get frustrated if your fix is not merged or it is rejected. Celebrate. So once your fix is accepted, it's time for your celebration, because that's your first change in the open source world. This is an interesting picture. Okay. There are images of many famous open source projects. Maybe fun part is, in our day-to-day world, many of us are using many open source stuff, but we do not know we are using open source, right? So here are a few of the examples like Python, Apache, then VLC, of course, the penguin sitting in the middle, and the Kubernetes Git. So there are many open source projects or open source software that we are using in our day-to-day activities, but we might not be knowing about it. Your career options in open source. Most important thing, first thing, networking. The amount of time that you are spending in these 2 days over here, you are getting to meet so many people. Take it from me, the networking that you are growing over here, that will help you in your entire career. Okay. So for example, last year we had similar kind of conference, as I said, in IIT Mandi. One of the organizers was Akarshan. He's also a speaker. You will get to hear him in some time. He got his internship opportunity in Germany based out of the networking. Networking that happened last year. There was another speaker, Oliver, who has given him the internship opportunity in Germany this year. So it's all because of the networking that is happening. Okay. So I got involved in the Zephyr community because of the networking that I had a chance to do it at Columbus conference when I was in Portugal. So that is how you grow your network. That is how you try talking to as much people as you want, and you develop out of it. Okay. Okay, there is an internet issue. Maybe I can present it here. Employment, there are many companies, including open source focused organizations like Red Hat, Mozilla, Canonical, who, while they do the recruitment, they search out of people who are contributing regularly for open source. They will not ask you like, okay, tell me this, tell me that. They will also try to see your open source presence. There is probably one talk on like how to apply for Canonical or how to work in Canonical, and this, so you get to hear more of in that talk. So that helps you in employment. Don't think that, okay, I'm contributing for open source, what benefit will give me, whether it will get an employment out of it. Yes, you can. Portfolio building. If you are organizing talks, if you are contributing, put it in your portfolio, put it in your LinkedIn profile. People should know that you are working on it. Okay. So these are some of the open source projects where you can contribute. So Linux Foundation Mentorship Program is one of them, where you can contribute on Linux kernel. Then Google Summer of Code. So by now, all of you know what Google Summer of Code is. Google Season of Talks, Outreaching, and there are a couple of other projects also, other open source programs also, where you can contribute. What Linux Foundation is doing, that is another interesting topic, since like I'm closely associated with Linux Foundation, and I'll try to explain you in short. So Linux Foundation is basically a non-profit organization which was established in 2000, so like to support the Linux development and open source software projects. There are many, Linux Foundation is basically an umbrella organization. So what do you mean by an umbrella organization? There are many other smaller organizations which are under the Linux Foundation umbrella. For example, automotive grade Linux. There will be many car companies, automobile companies across the globe will be using the automotive grade Linux in their infotainment system. Like another one is like open printing. So we all come under the Linux Foundation umbrella. There are many projects which comes under the Linux Foundation umbrella. So it's hosting and governing open source projects, and community Linux Foundation helps in building, community and the collaboration, helps in training and certification. You can go to the Linux Foundation website. There are many training and courses available. Many of them are free. There are a few paid ones as well. Advocacy and policy engagement. Linux Foundation helps in designing the policy and the advocacy. Then the infrastructure and technical support. Like open printing is not a cash-rich organization. So we benefit a lot from open printing. All the help that we get from open printing helps us in building the community. Then open source licensing and compliance. There are projects like SPDX and a couple of other projects which help in licensing. They design the licensing or like they provide the licensing guidelines. Security initiatives, industry-specific initiatives, funding and support for open source development. Like all these projects, all these programs like Linux Foundation Mentorship Program, then other Linux Foundation conferences that Linux Foundation organizes that helps in growing these smaller projects. Beginner's Guide. So all that I have spoken, you can take this course from. It's a kind of a beginner's guide. You can get it in the Linux Foundation website that will help you with these kind of basics what you need. Okay, this is my last slide. I mean, all that you have learned about open source projects and all. Now there might be a question: can I start my own open source project? Okay, yes, you can start. You can start it from anywhere at any level. You can do your open source project. So this is one of the projects which was started by me during the COVID times. So what it is all about? So during that time, we were facing this kind of like problems where there were containment zones where we were meeting people, and there were like whether how do you know if the other person is COVID affected or not, right? So this was a small device which was designed by me and few other colleagues of mine. So we are a team of 5. So this is a small piece of IoT hardware. So you have inside and few other sensors. What it was doing is it's a small device. You keep it in your pocket and you try to see that if somebody has come to your vicinity of that. I mean, I guess it was 6 feet or something during that point of time what was provided. So if somebody has come near to you, so it will try to track and how many times have you violated that protocol. So then once you come home, it will try to detect like whether you were in a containment zone. Now, if you were in a containment zone, so there are high chances that you'll pick up COVID. Then what it will do is it will ask to check your essentials. And everything is integrated in the same piece of hardware. Like it will try to see your body temperature, it will try to see your SpO2 and other related stuff. Now, if it sees that all is okay, then it's fine. It will continuously do it for a period of time. But after some point of time, if it can detect like no, it is not okay, there is something wrong. What it will do is it will try to analyze the sound of your lungs, right? So there was a digital stethoscope, the last one. So it's a digital stethoscope which you put it on your chest. It will pick up the voice or pick up the sound of your lungs, and it will try to analyze it. I mean, if the lungs is a problematic, if the sound is a problematic one or not. So there is a AI ML part that was associated with it. We used open source data sets which were easily available. So it will analyze if it's a healthy lungs or if the lungs is a problematic one. And then if all of these things are negative, then it will suggest you to go to a doctor. So we developed this, and we got a couple of awards for this particular project. And then we thought, like, why don't we put it as an open source project? And that's how we created our own open source project Shack. And there were a few people who were actively contributing or who are actively contributing in this particular project. So yes, if you want, you can start your own open source journey. That's it from my side. I hope you liked the information. So any questions?
So there are open source projects which are not a part of GSOC, right?
Right.
So like if you want like if it's a specific open source project that you want, but you also want to participate in GSOC, how do you manage both of them?
So your question is, if a particular project is not a part of GSOC, how do you want to contribute to it, right? Yeah. Correct. See, GSOC gives you a platform, but open source is not all about GSOC. GSOC helps you in getting into the open source world. But that doesn't mean that if there is any particular organization which is not a part of GSOC, will not be able to work for it. It's not like that. That's why I said, like, you identify your area of interest, check out the website, check out the community, get into it, try your first basic issue, and you can start contributing. It doesn't have to be a part of GSOC. And also, like GSOC, every year it will change. Today, a particular organization might be a part of GSOC. They might not be accepted by Google next year, right? So, but you can contribute to any particular project. Okay. Any other question? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Till is it you?
So everyone, just a piece of information. The top in L16, which was probability that has been postponed. We regular time because the speaker is not here. Whoever wishes to attend the workshop is a hands-on workshop. You can attend the workshop in L650. So today we will take you there. Whoever wishes to attend the workshop is a hands-on workshop on probability and geography. And now we will have you sent it?
Is there any clicker?
Yes.
Is there any clicker or only here?
Let me just check this. No, I think this is the. I can help you changing.
Yes, yes, yes.
Where is this PPT? Just give me 1 second. I'll share it to that laptop so I can upload it.
Yes. One minute, please. We are preparing the projection.
Sir, can I have the mic for a minute?
Yes.
Somebody is on their phone, and if anyone knows it, contact me. It was I collected it from someone I don't know. Okay, if you know someone who knows it, won't let me know. Like someone who's with green ID card.
So let us start. As I've already told in the opening, when you have already been here, I'm Til Kampeter, leader of Open Printing. Hello, everyone, and I will talk a little bit about what Open Printing is, how it was created, and so on. So at first, what we are doing, we are creating the architecture, technology, and infrastructure so that one can print with Linux, Unix, and POSIX-like operating systems. And for that, we are also collaborating with the most important standards body for printing, the IEEE ISTO Printer Working Group, PWG. And they are especially have created and are maintaining the Internet Printing Protocol, which is standard protocol for printers communicating with computers. And all the modern printing is based on this protocol. And we are also taking care of driverless scanning so that you can connect a scanner, especially the scanner and multifunction printers, so that the scanners just work. And we are integrating printing in the desktop environment. So we are taking care that print dialogs are showing all printers, all user settable options, and that you can do all the settings and print the jobs, and also printer setup tools so that you can configure printers and that they work with the current technologies for printing. And we are integrating the printing in the operating system. So we are taking care that the printing works in different Linux distributions. I'm packaging by myself for Ubuntu, but I'm also helping and working together with people from other distros for their packaging and integration. And we have printer driver lookup lists once for classic printer drivers, which we have since 2000. And also in nowadays also a list for modern driverless printers, which do not need a driver anymore. And we are also helping manufacturers to do the things right, to create drivers, to do them the right way, and so on. Next. And how did it all begin? I was system administrator in a theoretical physics department when I did my PhD. It was back in it was 1997 to 2000, and there I had to manage a network with workstations, Unix workstations, SGI and digital Unix. I don't know whether you know about this kind, because it's so long ago, and most people of you are much younger than me. And also I had to introduce Linux PCs there so that every workplace got a computer. In that time, 1997, it was Linux 5.1, SUSE Linux 5.1, and printing worked via LPD. And we had two postscript laser printers, which each one had 2 trays and duplex. And duplex means printing, yes. And so in 2 trays, we had to choose tray 1 and tray 2. And in duplex, we have to choose single-sided or double-sided with long edge binding or double-sided with short edge binding. So we have 6 possibilities to set. And my predecessors of system administrators did a very weird scripting to make it possible with the 6 options of the LPD command, which are actually for completely different things of line printers. Line printers are text-only printers of long ago. And so they did these tricky scripts. Then we got a color laser printer, and the color laser printer suddenly has more options, especially in addition color or black and white and paper type and much more. And this printer came only with proprietary GUIs for the commercial Linuxes, SGI and digital, but not for Linux. And so one had always to SSH into into an SGI or digital machine to be able to print something on the color laser. Next. And so in 2000, CUPS 1.x came out. Michael Sweet, we will see him in the afternoon, and he has created CUPS. He was also one of the creators of IPP, the Internet Printing Protocol, and he's created CUPS, a printing system based on IPP. 1.0 came in the beginning of 2000, and I have seen in a German Linux magazine, printed paper magazine, an article written by Kurt Pfeiffer about cups. And so I learned about cups. And so I deployed cups in our department. I discovered that cups supports PostScript printers perfectly well. Each PostScript printer has a PPD file, PostScript printer description file, which describes the properties of the printer, user settable options, trays, resolutions, duplex, and so on. And one can simply set up a PostScript printer with cups, with a PPD file, which comes with a printer somewhere hidden in the Windows driver. And with this, the PostScript printer works perfectly well. Tried it with the printers on our network. For the black and whites, I got more options like resolutions and so, and I could use a color printer and full functionality in Linux without any need of proprietary GUIs. But this was all command line, which is not very easy for not so savvy people, which in the physics department, physicists, they usually not the real geeks in computing and so on. And so I have created a print dialog, a graphical user interface that you can print jobs, that you can select the options, trays, resolutions, duplex, and everything which is described in the PPD file, and then print the job. And I wrote it very simple with a simple toolkit named XPP, Printing Panel. It worked. It was easy for the users in the department to print. But then I thought I release it as free software because it's interesting also for others. So I've published it on Freshmeat. And the author of the article I mentioned, Kurt Pfeiffer, discovered it. He invited me to the Linux Tag 2000, big show, big conference with Linux and many booths and so to show it there in July 2000 next. And by this, in August 2000, I lived in Paris. But do not try to speak French to me, because what happened is on this show where I was in July, Mandrake Soft had a booth, and they were very, very interested in my print dialog and in switching to cups in their distro. And so they hired me. They invited me to work there. I did not need to apply. They simply, on the show, they simply were all after me, telling how nice it is to work in their office and how it works with the distro and package upload. And a week after the show, I got an email, do you want to work with us? And then I said yes, and this brought me to their office in Paris. And so I had to package cups, RPM, and I had also to take care that the printer drivers, which were not cups drivers, which already exist, work with cups. So I had to create PPDs for them. And for that, there was a site, linuxprinting.org, which had a printer and driver compatibility database telling to the poor Linux users, this printer works with this driver. This was not me, this was someone else who created it, but I picked it up, saw that there was also a PPD generator, but the database was not populated enough to create PPDs for every driver. And so I asked the author whether he could fill it up. But he did not have the time, so he gave me full write access, and I filled it up. And with this, so all the commands, how the drivers are called, I have had to fill in, and which options they have, and which settings, and what the options and settings change on the command line. And so all with this, I succeeded in fall 2000, the next Mandrake Linux edition after my arrival, to make Mandrake Linux perfectly print with cups. And it got much, much easier to print with that Mandrake Linux. And and without loss of support of any printer which was supported before, because I have integrated all the drivers, all and every free software driver which existed before. Next. And so printing got much easier with Mandrake Linux. And so I also did a lot of evangelism and community work. I organized on this big Linux show where I have been in 2000, from 2001 to 2006, every year, a community booth about open printing. And on other conferences, I gave half-day and full-day workshops how to use and how to integrate cups, how to create cup servers and so on conferences for developers, for system administrators and so on. I've also given many talks, even in Brazil and Portuguese. And I've organized also 2 hackfests. And with all this, in the early 2000s, all the other Linux distribution followed and also switched to cups, used everything which I've made and prepared for Mandrake Linux. It's free software, everyone can use it. And we had, and all the other printing systems, they were on the way to die. They disappeared. Nobody maintained them anymore. And so we had cups as a new standard. Next. And during this time in the early 2000s, there was done a printing summit, not by me, but by others, and I was invited to it, and Michael Sweet too, and many others were to do with printing with Linux, in 2001 in the United States. And there we created the organization Open Printing. And also in the beginning, Open Printing was about development of printer-related APIs, libraries, and so on for printing integration. But this turned out not to be that important in the end. And I organized an Open Printing Summit, the first Open Printing Summit, in 2006 in Atlanta, in Georgia, with the help of Rico. They have an office there. And because most of the printing related people come from the United States, it was important that I hosted it in the United States so that they are nearby and the travel gets cheaper. And on this summit, there was Jan Murdoch, one of the founders of Debian. And he invited me to work at the Free Standards Group full-time, and to manage open printing. And the Free Standards Group merged into and my first job was to merge linuxprinting.org, this printer compatibility database, into Open Printing to make it one organization named Open Printing, manage Open Printing. And in 2007, the Free Standards Group and OSDL, Open Source Development Laboratory, merged and got the Linux Foundation. Actually, the Free Standards Group was eating up OSDL. It was more like that. And then, from 2006 on, I worked full-time from Open Printing. In the beginning at Free Standards Group, then at Linux Foundation, And in addition, on the Linux Talk 2006, the last time when I had a booth, I bumped into Mark Shuttleworth, and he wanted to hire me too at Canonical. And so I started with full-time Linux Foundation plus a third time Canonical, so 4 thirds time in total. And it faded over with the time. Now I'm 100% Canonical. And I got one of the 8 fellows of the Linux Foundation. Next. So From then on, from 2006 on, I organized an open printing summit every year. And later on, this was co-located with the PWG. We have now an annual meeting of the PWG and open printing. And from 2008 on, I started to participate in the Google Summer of Code as the mentoring organization, the Linux Foundation. So I entered as a mentoring organization on behalf of the Linux Foundation. And with open printing part of the Linux Foundation, I was mentoring Google Summer of Code contributors for open printing. In 2015, on an open printing summit, I met Avik Basu, who worked at Lexmark in India that time. And so he was participating in the open printing summits. And he was helping me to find Google Summer of Code contributors for open printing, because they do not come by themselves, or printing is not very attractive, it's not really sexy. And so one really needs be more active to find people, and Avik did that. He was looking around at universities, including this one, Mandi, Kanpur, and many more, and finding motivating students to apply as a Google Summer of Code contributor. And he also created a selection process. He was collecting already months before the application period at Google, CVs of students, selecting the best CVs, and letting them do exercises, building cups and so on. And then the ones who did all this well, he passed to me. I let them fix some bugs, and then I was assigning them to one of our projects. And then with that, they applied at Google, more or less like this way we have done it. And from 2023 on, as you have heard in the opening, we have started the Opportunity Open Source Conferences in India, and this is the second one. And the last one in Mandi was very successful. With the help of that, we attracted 11 Google Summer of Code contributors for open printing. And probably we attracted many, many more people that they joined other free software projects, open source projects. Next. So what has open printing all done up to now? What they did achieve? So first, we made cups, and we are maintaining cups, the standard printing system for POSIX-style operating systems. Then we made all the free software printer drivers which existed in the early 2000s work with cups, and every newcomer of printer driver, we have taken care that it works with cups. So we switched the standard print job format from PostScript, because it was PostScript up until we changed it in 2006. Because of the times of computing centers, and there the printers were usually PostScript printers, but PostScript is not nice. There are too many printers with buggy interpreters, and PostScript is also a Turing complete programming language, so an easy entrance point for malware. So we switched to PDF. PDF also can deal with transparency, which PostScript does not. So Mike Sweet and me in 2006 on our first Open Printing Summit announced that we switch over the standard printing format from PostScript to PDF. And it took until 2011 until it was everywhere deployed, but it is actually now the standard which is used. And so Also, GhostScript. Michael Sweet has done a fork for GhostScript for CUPS. And then there were many free software GhostScript drivers, which were patches for GhostScript, which one had to compile into GhostScript, and GhostScript upstream did not accept them. And in 2007, I succeeded with the GhostScript upstreams and with Mike Sweet to agree on a grand unified GhostScript, and I implemented this. I did all the coding and modifications on artifacts upstream GhostScript that it turned into the grand unified GhostScript, and so we did away with all the forks and different licenses, and there was one GhostScript for everyone. And so I have also maintained system config printer as printer setup tool for Ubuntu, and so I have added to it a lot of automatic printer and driver assignment. And CUPS filters. CUPS was maintained for a long time by Apple for Mac OS X with Mike Sweet full-time there, but CUPS filters contained some filters which Apple did not use because Apple used proprietary filters. So these filters they did stop maintaining, and so I've overtaken the maintenance, and this made up the CUPS filters package. And then we have the common print dialog backends. This is a separation of print dialogs from the actual print technology, so that when something changes in CUPS, one changes the backend for CUPS and does not need to change the print dialog code as graphical user interfaces. KDE, GNOME, and also applications like Mozilla, they have a high inertia and do not keep pace with changes in CUPS. And also with this separation, one can easily create a new backend for a network printing service, for some cloud printing service, as we had in former times Google Cloud Print. These services can easily come up again. And we made a snap package of CUPS. I made a snap package of CUPS so that one can easily install the most latest and greatest upstream CUPS. And also for distros like Ubuntu Core Desktop, which are all snap. And about this, I will talk tomorrow when I have my snappy day. And also, all the free printer drivers I've converted and integrated again, because the next generation of CUPS will not support PPD files anymore. And printer drivers have to be provided as printer applications, emulations of driverless printers, because CUPS will support only driverless printers. So I have made all the free software printer drivers which exist integrated again, but this time in printer applications. Next. And so our areas of work, it's CUPS as Michael Sweet has left Apple. Michael Sweet is continuing. Michael Sweet continues to maintain CUPS, but CUPS is now hosted at Open Printing as the place where it belongs to. And CUPS filters, common print dialog, backends, Puppet retrofit. We have a printer for printer applications. Michael Sweet has a library, the printer application library, Puppet. And Puppet retrofit is to retrofit classic PPT drivers into printer applications. And then we are maintaining printer compatibility databases telling which printer works with which driver and whether it works under Linux at all. Fumetic is from the former linuxprinting.org, the database where we have since the late 90s lists of printers, and for each printer with which driver they work, or whether they are just a paperweight, meaning that they do not work with Linux at all. And Michael Sweet has created another list, the list of driverless printers. All the printers which are in Mike's list, they are driverless. You don't need any driver. They just work with Linux. So next. And then we have, as I said, the collaboration with the printer working group. We meet once a year on our Open Printing Summit. And so we are observing the changes of the Internet Printing Protocol, IPP. We are also making suggestions. And so we can follow the IPP with our implementations. And so many of our coding work done, or often done by Google Summer of Code students, is to implement standards which were defined in new versions of IPP. And we designed the general printing system infrastructure. We are in contact with printer manufacturers and help them to do things correctly. And so we do also desktop integration, printer setup tools, and print dialogues. We also work on the integration in immutable distros by making appropriate packages like snaps, or also currently in this Google Summer of Code also OCI containers for Docker. And we do all, yes, and next. And now what happened in the last years, we got a new architecture for printing and scanning, because most manufacturers make printers which are driverless because of the fact that we have smartphones. People want to print from phones, and phones are restricted. They cannot carry tons of PPDs and so. And so this also is pushing the direction of the manufacturers to make printers driverless. And so most modern printers, when you buy a cheap Wi-Fi network printer in a store, it is usually driverless. And what this printer does, it advertises itself by DNSSD. And so it is auto-discoverable, so computers in the same network see it automatically. When one talks IPP to the printer, when one does a get printer attributes request, then one gets back a full list of the printer's capabilities, user settable options, and so the information which in former times you got in the PPD file, you get from the printer itself. And the printer only uses standard data formats for the job itself. PDF, at least one of PDF, PWG raster, Apple raster, and PCLM, where PCLM is not PCL, it's a raster only PDF. And so due to this, in the next generation of CAPS 3.x, we will stop supporting poster printer description files. CAPS 3.x will only support driverless IPP printers. And so, yes, CAPS gets all IPP. And so if we have a printer which still needs a driver, I have again taken care that these printers will not stop working. I'm not Microsoft. We are here at Linux at Free Software. And therefore, we have introduced the concept of printer applications, emulations of driverless printers. And I've taken care that all the old classic drivers, which are available as free software, are now available as print applications. And this way, the old printers go on working. Next. Now, here you see a diagram made by Mike Sweet of the new architecture of printing and scanning, at least of printing. So you have the CAPS 2.x, this is the current CAPS, and user applications, they talk only with CUPS, looking up the list of available printers and sending print jobs, and CUPS 2.x to cope with printers in all the time from the early 2000s up to now, had for each printer a PPD file, and if it's not a poster printer, also a driver filter. And with this, it could print with poster printers and non-poster printers which needed a driver. And CUPS 2.x already supports the new architecture. It supports both architectures. So it can talk with a driverless printer without needing a driver for driverless printers. It can directly talk with a driverless printer. And as it can talk with a driverless printer, it can also talk with a printer application. So you can, with the current CUPS, already use printer applications of the new architecture. And it also works. And the new architecture, the difference is now we do not support PPD files and drivers and classic driver filters anymore. And so we need somehow to support all printers. And CUPS 3 is only IPP, only the new architecture supports only driverless printers. So the driverless printers directly supported. And the printer application emulate the driverless printer, so the old printers are only supported through printer applications. Next. And now we need something. We cannot simply install CUPS 3.x. We will get very, very angry users if we do so. We need to integrate it in the desktops because the printer setup tools, they expect we discover printer by CUPS backends, and we should find a PPD for the printer so that we can make it print. So we must tell with the printer setup tools that we have now driverless printers, which are just discovered in the network and just work, and also that when we discover non-driverless printers, once that for discovery of them, we should use printer applications and not CUPS backends, and also to assign printer applications to them. And we make the printer setup tools that they support both, so one gets more comfort and more facility to use printers with CUPS 2.x, and we assure that it still works with CUPS 3.x. And in the print dialogues, we have also to take care that we can cope with printers which do not have a PPD file, so that we talk with CUPS real IPP. Oh, we are near the end, and so we need to modify this, and this is done in a lot of Google Summer of Code projects. And we also do the same with scanners. We make scanner applications to replace SANE so that we can do sandbox packaging of scanner drivers. And that's all for now. Does anyone have any questions? No questions?
You said that in CUPS 2.0, the 2.0 version, you had PPTs and drivers alongside CUPS, and that sort of change in CUPS 3, right? How exactly, like, what exact benefits or difficulties if they're thinking about in that transition?
What do you want to know exactly? You have a printer with a PPD?
Like how that transition to CUPS 3.
Yes.
Difficulties or what were the...
Yes, the difficulty is the following. If you have a classic printer driver, and now you cannot use it anymore in CUPS 3. So you would need a printer application. You would need another format of printer driver, and the new printer driver format is emulating a driverless printer. And for the free software drivers, already done the conversion. There we have printer applications. But now if you have a proprietary driver, then you will probably, when you simply install CUPS 3.x, you will perceive that the printer does not work. And you are now thinking about, can I get it working? We have even a possibility for that. The Puppel retrofit package contains a so-called legacy printer application. And if you install it on your system, but it must be a classic system, it does not work on immutable systems, then it finds classically installed CUPS printer drivers, and it mirrors these drivers into itself as a printer application. And so these drivers get available also for the modern CUPS 3.x. Any other questions? No? Yes, then we are done with this talk. I hope you have liked it. I hope you will join Open Printing. So let us go to the next talk. Thank you very much. Who's the next speaker?
Hey, Phil.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Fine. Yes.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yes, because they
Oh, that's here. Okay. So, yeah, I'll see.
I thought wait is the mask of the
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think this should be okay. Hopefully, it won't fall off.
I don't know whether it works this way. But
Yeah, yeah, this right here because that was kind of unstable. Well, if you will go in. Oh, God. It doesn't. Oops. I'm having trouble with this. Just having trouble with this. It's not there, man. Sorry, but
yes, you can start.
all right. All right.
You have to use both this microphone and the other microphone.
All right. That's
Yes, because the speakers in the room need the big microphone, and the other one is for the remote.
got it. All right.
Yes, is it turned on?
I'm not sure. All right. It seems to work.
The second one.
Yeah, friends, right now we also have in a workshop in LSP. So whoever is interested in knowing, you can contact me and you should do it. Right. So now we have a session by about demos. So please let me know what I'm about.
Let's see. This one just seems to work. Alrighty. Hello, everybody. I'm the Saraswat, and I'm the developer, and I'm the creator of Ubuntu Unity and LenOS. So this session is going to be about LenOS. LenOS is an immutable anatomic Arch Linux-based distribution. And I'm going to discuss all of the technologies we have employed to implement immutability and atomicity in LenOS, as well as some of the new stuff we've been working on to make it easy for you all to create your own atomic distributions based on Arch Linux and potentially other distributions in the future. Next slide. Alright, so to begin with, I'll just quickly go over what exactly immutability and atomicity entail. So immutability just refers to the concept where you cannot modify any of your system files, and so that would be /user here. And since BlenOS is based on Arch Linux, and the package manager we use is Pacman, of course that while the Pacman is also immutable on Arch Linux, on BlenOS. And applications cannot be installed to use it directly. You must use Flatpaks, or I'm going to come to this later. We have container support as well, so you can just create an Arch Linux container if you want to, or an Ubuntu container, or that of Fedora, or any other distribution for that matter, since we use Podman behind the scenes, or you can use overlays. As for atomicity, I guess you could take the example of when you have a power cut, and if you are updating your system, so if you run Ubuntu, say, and you're updating your system, so you're running sudo apt update, and there was a power cut, PC turn off, and let us assume it was a big update. It included a kernel update, and you turn your computer on the next time, and well, it just didn't boot. That is what we try to work around here to atomic updates, because atomic updates, with atomic updates, updates are just indivisible transactions essentially. An update is either complete or it is not, and they're abandoned if they were interrupted in the in between, and they are applied on the next boot. So taking the example of a power cut once again, if there were a power cut, and you were to turn the computer on again, even if it was a big update, it included the kernel update, or a new version of Grub, or whatever bootloader you're using. The next time you turn the computer on, it would be almost as though there was never any update in the first place, and they are cleanly applied on the next boot. So updates are downloaded in the background, and the next time you boot your computer up, your current root file system will be replaced with a new one through an NSMFS hook. So I'm just going to quickly go over how exactly we have implemented immutability in BlenOS. Next slide. All right. So we use overlayFS for this purpose. The name of the utility here. So there are a bunch of implementations. There's ABroot. There's OSC used by Fedora, and over on the BlenOS side of things, we have our own thing, Xara, and so firstly we use overlays for that purpose. We just overlay /user and /varlib /pacman with read-only directories. So with overlays, if you have, say, a directory A with 2 files, with files B and C, and X with files I and J, if you were to layer X on top of A, depending on whether it is read-write or read-only, if both directories were read-write, or if even just X was read-write, well, you would be able to make changes to that directory, and any changes would go to the upper directory, which would be X in that case. But if it was read-only, it would be immutable. It would be the final output directory, the combined directory will also be, the overlay directory will also be read-only, and that is what we use for advantage here, because we just mount 2 empty directories, 2 empty read-only directories on top of /user and /varlib /pacman, and thus we do not have to use multiple partitions for this purpose, because on vanilla OS, or on if you take an example of any other distribution, Fedora, Silverblue, many of those you require multiple partitions or LVM10 partitioning. Let's say we can just use one partition like you would on any other distribution. That is not a concern here. You just use one partition. For /user /local, similarly, we just have one writable overlay on top, and that's where you can add any wallpapers, for instance, to user local shared backgrounds. You can just copy stuff there, or if you had to compile anything and install it, you could just install it to /user /local, because /user /local is writable. And similarly with /etc, this is something that is related to atomic updates as well, because here it is kept read-write. It is kept writable. You can make any changes to it like you would on any other distribution, but on an update, the current version of all of the files you have stored in /etc are going to be compared to to the original versions of those files, to the original versions shipped by the previous update, as well as whatever's incoming. So whatever's coming from the latest update. This is when your system is getting updated. So it'll just perform a three-way merge essentially, and you get to keep your changes. You get to keep your changes to /etc and all of the new changes from the latest update make their way to your system. And you can create containers to install standard packages. Now, as for atomic updates, atomicity, so we just have one system configuration file, a YAML config file, where you can add whatever packages you want on your system, any packages, and you can choose the desktop environment you want to use, be it GNOME, Plasma, whatever. You can choose the desktop environment you want to use. You can add any commands you want to be executed when /user is read write. This will be a part of the update process. So the basics for system travel is post-March Linux's mirrors. So you get to choose the mirror, by the way. So it just pulls a rootfs. It will compare the checksum, and after that, I mean, it's going to download any packages you choose to include in /system.yaml, and if it'll cache any downloaded packages for later for future updates. It'll just generate a root file system with these packages, and it'll execute any commands you include in /system.yaml. And on the next boot, using an initmfs hook, it'll swap your current root file system with the new one. So and then the initmfs hook is just, if you do not know what an initmfs is, well, it is just a little file system that is copied to memory, and it mounts and loads your root file system and takes care of a bunch of other stuff. But here, what we do here is we just replace your current root file system with a new one after it is mounted, but before your computer switches to your actual root file system. Before the switch happens, it will just seamlessly replace your current root file system with a new one. All right, so that is what a configuration file looks like. /system.yaml. This is taken from our official documentation, and it includes the name of the desktop environment in the tag variable. You can select the Blender repository you want to use, or if this were another distribution and you choose to use Xara, which is what we use, you just get to replace that with whatever article you want to use. Arch-repo, that is where you select the mirror you want to use of the Arch repositories, because there isn't one main repository. And then we have the impl variable, the impl variable. That is where it'll import any tags you want to use. So you just have a repository with a bunch of system.yaml files for system.yaml files for each desktop environment. So you have a system.yaml file for GNOME, for Plasma, for KDE Plasma, for XFCE, Budgie, all of those. And it'll just import those, and it'll combine those with your system.yaml file. And you get to select the tag. You want to use. So you could just hypothetically, switch from one desktop environment to another. You just got to change this file and then run one command to update. And you can add any packages you want to install here. Any packages from the AUR as well. And if, say, you were to include a display manager of your choice, if you were using Plasma like we are here in the screenshot here, and you want to use LightDM with KDE Plasma, you can just include LightDM in the packages list and add it to the services list as well, which you can see here. And then you can add any repositories you want to use, any custom package repositories. If you want to use the chaotic AUR, for instance, you could add that down there. And any commands as well. So if you want to make any modifications to /user, you could make those modifications there, because you will not be able to do so. You will not be able to do so in a normal terminal. You can only do so in a system.yaml file, and that is what makes BlenOS declarative. You can just copy the system.yaml files from one system to another, and then just run one command, and you're going to be on the same system as that person. That's that. Now, BlenOS, because of course you cannot install any packages directly aside from modifying your system configuration. We also offer container support. So we have a little UI and CLI for that purpose. We use Podman behind the scenes, and you can just create an Ubuntu container, an Arch Linux container, a container of any distribution, and you can install any applications you want to within a container, and those applications will automatically appear in your application menu because /user/bin and user share applications are watched by a daemon, and any applications you install are going to appear automatically on your system, or if the binaries of the commands in your part in your container, they will appear on your host system as well. So if you installed Git, for instance, in a container, you could just run it from a terminal on the host system by executing git dot whatever the name of the kernel or whatever the name of the container is. So if the container were named Arch, then you could just run git.arch and use it like you would any other package or any other binary on your computer. Now, coming to Android app support, because BlenOS does support Android app support out of the box, we use Wager for that purpose, led by Irfan Abdi, and we have a UI for that, so we've just exposed it in our system settings utility. We use Lineage OS out of the box. Some of you all might be using it on your phones. It's the same Lineage OS. We use that, and we offer options too. So we cannot include Google Play Store by default because because there are certain legal issues if we were to include Google Play Store without getting permission from Google. So we just offer the choice to install Aurora Store or F-Store instead. You can always download the Google Play Store APK and the Play Services APKs. You can install those APKs. If you were to double click on an APK, it'll automatically show you the install dialog, the install package dialog, like it would on an Android phone, and you can install any Android apps that way, or you could just install a store from here. Aurora Store is an open source front-end for the Google Play Store, all of the same apps, but it's a different front-end. And F-Store is for Force apps only. It's for open source applications only. Next slide. Now, coming to what we're working on some of the new stuff we've been working on. So Common Arch, for one, it is supposed to be, so it uses all of the same technologies as BlenOS does, all of the technologies we've developed for the purpose. It uses Akshara, it has the same container utilities and stuff, but with one major difference, one key difference, it uses OCI images for your system. So hypothetically, you could just write a Docker file and create a distribution from that. You could always just write a little Docker file or use any image from Docker Hub, and you're gonna have a system where you could just if you push an update, if you push any changes to your Docker image, for instance, your system will automatically update to the latest OCI image. OCI image, as in, it's a standard for containers, for Docker images, for Podman images, for whatever container utility you use. Next slide. This is possible to native OCI containers. So OCI containers. So we just use the root file system from an OCI image, from an OCI bundle, for your root file system. So we pull the latest OCI image. You can just rebase to any OCI image if you want to, from Docker Hub or from GHCR or from any registry, and we just pull the image to a local directory using Scorpio, and it is unpacked into a bundle. The image is unpacked using a Yumoki, and your current root file system is replaced with the root file system from the bundle on the next boot. Once again, this is through an init ramfs hook, and this way, since this is what we use for BlenOS 2, we just replace the root file system with another. Here too, we just replace your current root file system with a root file system from the image you choose to use. So that is all there is to it. We've just implemented a tiny subset of the OCI runtime specification here. And next slide. So this is just a screenshot of a part. This is just an excerpt from the specifications from the bundle from the bundle specification. So you just have a config.json file within an OCI bundle, which we of course unpack from the OCI image itself, and it contains the root file system and a bunch of configuration options. And yeah, I mean, it contains the root file system, and on the next boot, your current root file system is replaced with a new one. That is all there is to this. Next slide. And that is the URL to this one, to this project. So if you want to build your own distribution using using OCI images, using everything BlenOS, offers, all of the same technologies, the same utilities, you could do that. This is the URL to the GitHub repository for the project, and that is just a screenshot of a part of the GitHub workflow, because right now we do it by building images as part of GitHub Actions. We just have little workflows for each image, for GNOME images, for KDE images, and we just build images, and then you can just build an ISO from an image. So yeah, next slide. That's all. Thank you, everybody. Any questions? Oh, I see. All right.
So is it possible to write a declarative configuration file and reuse it, for example, a year or two?
So, sorry, go ahead. Oh, that's all right. Yeah. So on BlenOS, we just you can choose to use a version of the Arch Linux archive at any time if you want to. So you could just pin yourself on the archive from one particular date. With Common Arch, since we do use OCI images on that sort of things, we use OCI images. So we just wet every single image that we build, and we have a dev branch and a stable branch, and we just test everything before pushing it, before rolling it all out to the stable branch, and that way we just make sure there isn't anything that's going to break your system before pushing it to all of our users. So yeah, that's how we work around that. And if you're using BlenOS, using the declarative configuration format, you can pin yourself on an archive version, and we plan to make it such that BlenOS, for instance, we plan to make it such that we just test versions of the archive, and we automatically keep you on the latest tested version of the Arch Linux archive. We use the Arch Linux archive for that reason.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Hello.
Yep.
इसका क्या जब भी डाउट वगैरह आए Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, I can.
Hello, hello. Yeah, so now we'll have a talk by Divya Mohan. It will be a virtual.
So I'm unsure if I'm supposed to be starting because I could not hear the entire thing. Let me know when I can start. I have my deck up. You can let me know when I need to start. I can't hear you. All right. Okay. I'm just gonna share my screen quickly, and I'll try to wrap this up as fast as possible because I know this is the last session before lunch. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Y'all will have to give me an audio input of yes or no because I'm not sure if it's visible right now. I'm on another window. All right. Okay. I think it's visible. So I'm gonna get started. So hello everyone. I am Divya Mohan, and thank you so much to the organizers for having me at the conference today. I've been listening to some of the talks here and truly impressed by the kind of technical details that have been shared so far. So, this talk is going to be slightly different. It's not going to focus on technology as much as I'd like to. But we're going to focus on the topic of open source community health and how we sort of leverage technology to do that and how you can get involved. So, the Chaos Project, a lot of y'all might have wondered what Chaos stands for. So, I'm going to get that right out of the way and uh, give you the full form. It stands for Community Health Analytics and Open Source Software. Now, there are a lot of moving parts in the project, and we'll cover them and come to the topic at hand, which is how we are sort of building out and unifying the open source ecosystem across Asia. But before I go ahead, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. So I'm Divya Mohan, like I said before, and I'm a principal technology advocate at SUSE at my day job. I'm also the maintainer for docs on the Kubernetes project, and I'm one of the regional leads for Chaos Asia, and I help co-chair the WebAssembly community efforts under the Bytecode Alliance. Um, the last bit, which is the regional lead for Chaos Asia, is the one that's going to be of more prominence here, given the fact that we are talking about the Chaos project. So, like I said, the Chaos is an acronym for community health and open source software, but typically people assume Chaos is this. Like, there is an extra S that adds the difference here. And essentially, the project is a part of the Linux Foundation, and it's funded by grants from the Sloan and the Ford Foundations. Um, it's a globally distributed project with 2,000 members on the Slack channel, and might be biased here, but it's a super fun place to spend your time if you're interested. But we're not concerned with physical health like vaccines and physiotherapy and stuff like that. We are concerned with the health of the project and health of the open source community around the project. We're not a for-profit organization, which means none of the tools that we developed or build or create or maintain are towards generating any sort of revenue. And we are definitely not the project that can accept only code contributions, primarily because of the way that we function, which is integrating software into the context of community health. So, like I've been saying this a lot. We care about open source community health a lot, because all the projects that you see in the open source ecosystem, right? They they are dependent on the fact that contributors actually make those contributions and sustain them. It's not magic that makes the software appear on your screen, or have a Linux distribution magically get converted into an ISO image or whatever. So you need contributors, and you need diversity in terms of the contributions that come in, because as we've seen, if we do not really have diversity in terms of thought, the kind of ecosystem that we build out becomes very narrowly scoped and has very um, a narrow perspective on things. And eventually this leads to an imbalance, which makes the project and the community more risky to depend on. And we all know what happens when that actually transpires, right? So if your um, project health is bad, if your community health is bad, you're not really going to receive a lot of financial support or even contributors or companies supporting you, and no adopters as such. So we spend a lot of time thinking about this. What are the components of open source community health, how to track and visualize this, if there are any data, if there's any data, how to sort of collect that data and interpret the data and stuff like that. So a lot of data science is there in this. And based on that, we have a lot of working groups, and I call them working groups very broadly, but they really are like parts of a whole. So obviously we have the context working groups, and we shall go into each of these very briefly. But and I really do want to focus on the efforts for Chaos Asia. So context working groups essentially um, are for people coming in from different contexts, like an open source program office, or from the academic open source side of things, or open source tools and technologies being used or developed in science and research and the app ecosystem in general. So all of these people have different contexts and different perspectives to bring in. So we thought it would be really great to have groups that actually bring their expertise and focus on that specific area, because people thrive best when they work on their expertise areas, right? So that's the summary of what context working groups are. And I spoke about community health. How do you actually measure anything? You need metrics, and you need models to sort of group those metrics in, and that's what those working groups focus on. And obviously we need a way to interpret the data that we get in the form of and collate them in the form of metrics and metric models. So we have a working group that's sort of focused on data science. And DEI, actually, I know that's a lot. It's a very often used buzzword that a lot of us don't get, and a lot of us don't understand very well. And in this project, it's absolutely essential, because given the state of flux that the open source ecosystem is in, having that DEI working group actually gives us metrics around the diversity, equity, and inclusion within projects and within the communities around those projects. So all of these together are working groups under metrics and metric models. Next up, we have operational working groups. Now, these are essentially the kind of working groups that move the cause of chaos forward. And it's kind of where Chaos Asia comes in, along with the other regional chapters. But it's also stuff like website and design and technical writing and community management, project management, all of those parts that hold your project together. We have these different working groups for that as well. And we have, like I said, a DEI metric development group. Right now, we've sort of implemented the kind of metrics that we get from there into a project badging and an event badging sort of initiative. And this fun fact was started by the folks over at Chaos Africa, one of the other regional chapters. It just started earlier this year, like formalized, and it has the support of GitHub and GitLab. So that's another thing. And coming to the software, which is what most of us would be interested in, given this is focusing on engineers. So we have software that we use to visualize and track the progress based on these metrics. And we've adopted the Augur and the 8 knot tool from Red Hat, and we've devised one of our own Grimoire lab. Both of these together are used for the visualization and collection of metrics, which we heavily rely on. And this has been adapted to various other organizations as well, in the sense that various other organizations have actually taken over this tool, have adopted it in their workflows, and are sort of tracking the health and the other metrics that we have devised with the specificity of their organization. And last but not the least, we have a lot of sub projects. These are again things that are supplementary to what we're doing, more centered around outreach. We have projects around Chaos Cons, which are our conferences on various continents. We have the Chaos podcast. We have initiatives that are focusing on onboarding new people into the project, and working on the Slack bot that welcomes newcomers into the Slack channel. And we also have accessibility audits as a separate sub project. But we have, like I said, we have a lot of moving parts. And specific to Chaos Asia, why are we here? Why am I talking about this, and why do I think it's important for you to actually be a part of this conversation? Primarily because the Asian footprint in the OSS ecosystem is massive right now. India actually figures as the fastest growing economy on GitHub, and this has been the case for nearly 2 years right now. And even if you keep India aside, right, like I know I'm preaching to the choir here when I say that Asian countries are slowly making their way into open source contributions, and figure in like the top 10. Four of them figure in the top 10 developer communities on GitHub. So you can definitely say that a sizable amount of developer population on GitHub comes from Asia Pacific. However, the statistic is that for specific to India, India will match America's developer economy on GitHub by 2026. This was per last year's report. But the whole crux is that Asian adoption of open source software, right, still really has a long way to go. It started off well, but we still need to make a lot of headwind. And there's also a lot of fragmentation in the diaspora, because there is cultural, regional, and linguistic differences just within one continent, right? Like, there are absolute differences in the ways of working when we talk about India, or we talk about Korea, or we talk about Japan and China. There's a difference, and as a result, there's no cohesive data available as to how open source is actually making waves in Asia. And being a services based economy, and I hate saying that word, but being a services based economy largely, um, the Asian support for contribution from employers, right, for the open source side of things has been very minimal. Like, I remember when I started off, I was told to work on my own time outside of my day job on open source, because although we used open source projects in our day-to-day work, it still is a lot of work to support monetarily, or even like support the contribution. So these are some statistics, and honestly, what I'm here to say is that we have an aim of unifying the Asian landscape around open source software, by building out a strong and inclusive community, and promoting networking and collaboration among these. By and how we can do that is by obviously bringing in more Asian voices to help us address those specific challenges and tell us about their specific challenges when we are talking about open source, right? And we also need to educate people in general and develop skills, because as we all know, there's a lot of gap in the kind of education that's given and the education that you learn when you actually get into the academic side of into the corporate side of things. So our initiatives are, first up, to create a publicly available database of Asian open source communities. We aim to actually extrapolate this to a global level, primarily because community building as a whole is very difficult, and many communities struggle with that. And if you're interested in this endeavor, we're right now sort of tracking the data, crowdsourcing of data over a GitHub issue. So if you have knowledge of any open source communities, or of any people spearheading these, please feel free to chime in. There is a QR code right here. And if you're interested in helping us build out the database, like technical chops, please reach out again. Slack channels at the end of the PDF. um, then we also want to make sure that we are creating a safe space for more diverse folks to come in, which also includes our disabled friends. And this has come from personal experience of navigating this journey with folks who are disabled and who want to make an impact but are not able to because of various issues. So we are again creating a focus group, and if you have an idea of people who are struggling in this space and would like to lead efforts here, or would like to provide their inputs, please help us. And we'd also appreciate if you'll amplify the message. This is one of my, I think, last 4 slides. I'm going to be really quick about it. One of the things that we have as a project is to standardize our metrics and models so that it's more acceptable in Asia to adopt them. So I know that as Asians, we're all passionate about standards, and adopting some things that have like certified trust. So this is one of those things that we're doing at the Chaos Project. We're working with the JDF, which is the Joint Development Foundation currently, and we've narrowed down the metrics and models that we want to standardize, and redrafting them into a specific format, after which this will be evangelized across different places for feedback. So if you want to help out, again, there are resources at the end which you can use. Last but not the least, capacity building is one of the last things that I want to touch on, because OSS is not always code, although it may seem like that. A lot of there's a lot of hard work that goes behind delivering code in the way that you see it today. So there are very few Asian voices from my personal experience that contribute to the open source ecosystem, as a result of which there's very less diversity in the perspectives that are brought forth. So what we want to do is partner with organizations, events, and projects that are similarly aligned all across Asia, so that we can tap into a diverse pool of contributors. And one of the things that we're doing is actually, speaking at events like these, and partnering with organizations such as Force United in India. Then there's a bunch of other organizations in Japan and China that we're partnering with. So if you'd like to help out in this, please consider joining the discussion on Slack, and help us amplify the word. With that, we have a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of moving parts. So if any of this sounds interesting, would really appreciate y'all joining in. I'll stop, rambling for a bit and see if there are any questions around this. If not, I'm happy for y'all to, leave for lunch or whatever. I'm not sure if you can hear me, so I need a audio or a video signal to tell me that we're good to, close this off.